Ravens flock. This is a disappointing afternoon. Very disappointing. What should have been a cakewalk for us, what should have been an easy win, ended up becoming a very disappointing loss, where all of the blatant flaws we have on this team became very obvious again, which is it definitely sucks to see because we were on a hot streak, and this is not the way you would want to see a hot streak ended, because it just pointed out everything wrong with the team, and there's just a bunch of holes that we all knew were there, but we tried to ignore and be optimistic over the past couple of weeks. Now, despite having all these holes, don't get me wrong, I still think that we can still make the Super Bowl. I do, but it's gonna be way harder than it needs to be, because at the end of the day, and there's a lot of people to blame for a loss like this, but I want to start with EDC, because EDC can't draft and he's not good at building teams, flat out. Now, this team isn't terrible, obviously, but for somebody like EDC, who has literally drafted more players in the past 5 years than any other team in football, I think it's safe to say that he's not very good at drafting or building teams. I think the teams that he has built have been very underwhelming. That's just the reality of the situation. Again, it doesn't mean we can't win a Super Bowl. I still think we can. As long as Lamar Jackson's in the game, we can. But the fact of the matter is, when you look at the teams that EDC has built, like, let's start with the draft. The majority of the players that EDC drafts, they don't pan out. And that's a major indictment on him, because, again, we've drafted more players than any other team in football. You know, despite bringing in all these picks, we're constantly in need of the same position every year at the trade deadline. Every year at the trade deadline, our biggest questions are like wide receiver and edge rusher. Pass rusher, whatever. Every year. And that's a problem, because every year he's drafted these positions and he's failed at it. Every year. That should be a major indictment on him. His picks aren't working out. You know, and then even the picks that he made that are solid, they're not like home run hits. You know, they're not like home run picks. Like, always having a solid season. He got off to a really hot start to start the year off, but he still has not asserted himself as that dominant pass rusher that EDC wanted him to be, or that the Ravens flock wanted him to be. And again, that's a problem to me and a big indictment on EDC, because to get the draft pick that you used on Owe in the first place, you traded away Orlando Brown Jr. And then you traded him to the Chiefs of all teams. Mind you, that was the year that the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl to the Bucks. They lost that Super Bowl because their O-line wasn't performing well. You helped them fix one of their few holes, and then meanwhile, in exchange, you drafted a player who 4 years in is still not even close to being a star yet. Not even, like, that trade has aged badly. Even with Orlando Brown not being on the Chiefs anymore, it doesn't matter. They still got more out of Orlando Brown than we've gotten out of Owe so far. You know, we drafted David Ojabo in the second round when we could have picked up somebody like George Pickens. Attitude or not. Mind you, I don't even think George Pickens is all that, to be honest with you. I think he's kind of overrated. But his number one attribute is he can make contested catch. He can make difficult and contested catches consistently. And that's something that we've always needed. Because even right now, we don't have guys who can make consistent catches or we don't have guys who can make contested catches on a consistent basis. And again, I'm not saying we can't win with this roster. We can win with this roster, but it's going to be way more difficult than it needs to be, because EDC is not good at building teams. And am I saying he's the worst GM in the league? No, he's not the worst GM in the league, but he's average at best. That's what you have to call him. He's average at best. Just like how I think Harbaugh is a very overrated coach being carried by Lamar, so is EDC. Now, some people may say I'm being harsh because, hey, GMs miss on draft picks all the time. It's not the end of the world. I understand that. But at the same time, when you miss on as many picks as EDC has had, that becomes a problem. Like, do any of y'all remember Devin Leary? Why did we draft a backup QB in the 6th round? Why did we draft a QB at all in the draft when we simply didn't need it? And I don't even think he's on the team anymore. Is he even on the practice squad? Is he even the emergency QB? No. Where is Caillou Blue Kelly? He ain't on this team anymore. Where's Malasala? He ain't on this team anymore. Where is TJ Tampa? We haven't seen TJ Tampa play yet. We haven't seen Adisa Isaac play yet. I don't even think we've seen Bo Braid or Sanusi Kane yet, outside of maybe special teams. People say it's a numbers game, but at the end of the day, that really doesn't apply in the context of an NFL draft, especially when it comes to EDC, because EDC is living proof that even when you have an abundance of picks, you could still lose on all of those picks. Like, there's not many picks he's made that have been home runs so far. There's really not many. The rate, and it just makes it so unacceptable that EDC is so unwilling to package some of these picks up and move them and use it to move up in the draft to get better quality players. They have this method of let's go with the best player available. In other words, let's not be aggressive. Let's just wait till the draft gets to us, and then we'll just pick whoever's left over. And that's a loser mentality, man. It's not working. It's simply not working. It's an overrated method. We could have had Justin Jefferson in 2020. We literally could have had him. Justin Jefferson didn't get picked till like the 22nd pick. We picked at 28. You can't tell me that we couldn't have moved up 6 spots to get literally the best receiver in football now. But that's what I'm talking about. They for whatever reason, EDC's addicted to hoarding all these picks that he can't do nothing with. And the 2020 class is a good example, because in that same draft class, a few picks after Justin Jefferson, you picked Patrick Queen, a guy who you had such little faith in that you didn't even bother paying him. You instead went out and traded for his replacement in Roquan, and then you overpaid Roquan's overrated ass. Overpaid this bum $100 million just so he could go run his mouth on every podium and every press conference, and then when you get into the game, he's a non-factor. We're paying $100 million to a non-factor. We're paying several $100 million to several different players who are non-factors. This is on EDC. Another reason I have a problem with his ability to build a team is because since you're not doing a good job drafting players, we're not able to get any real value out of these players' rookie contracts. Because since we don't have players who the coaches feel confident enough playing on their rookie deal, so they and allowing them to be serious contributors early, so we can have them for cheap during our Super Bowl window. Instead, the coaches don't have faith in them, and then you don't have faith in them. And so as a response to that, we end up going out here and having to constantly overpay for veteran players and overpay for players who play irrelevant positions. Roquan, like I just said a second ago, Roquan is massively overpaid. And so is Marcus Williams. You didn't have faith in Marcus as a safety or the safeties that you drafted, and so you brought in Eddie Jackson for no reason. You brought him in for no reason at all. You brought him in just so he could embarrass us. Our offensive line is underwhelming this year. Todd Monken and Lamar have done a good job to try to, mask how underwhelming our O-line is. But the past 2 weeks, it's starting to come back out. It's starting to get re-exposed. And then on top of that, it's like, why not fire? Another issue I have with EDC is, again, he's just so passive. Like they play it safe. They play it safe to a fault. And what I mean by that is, as bad as our defense is looking right now, if we had Mike McDonald, I still feel confident that this defense could very well, at the very least, perform close to what they did last year. Not saying they're going to repeat what they did last year, but we shouldn't be giving up 30 points a game and like 300 passing yards a game. If Mike McDonald is here, even if we took a dip in our defense, we still would have maybe been holding teams to like maybe 20 points. But this is crazy. And again, it's been obvious that John Harbaugh has needed to go. And you had the guy who could have easily transitioned into being his replacement. And you let him walk out the door for what? Speaking of John Harbaugh, I want to go to him now. Like always, it's bad clock management, taking timeouts at the wrong time, questionable personnel decisions. Now, when they benched Marcus Williams, because he got benched, I don't know if it's been confirmed or not, but I'm positive Marcus Williams got benched, which I agree with the idea of benching him. But my main thing was, don't just bench Marcus and Eddie Jackson. And then go put Bo Braid and Sanusi Kane out there. Go see what you have in these rookies. Maybe one of them can turn out to be a serviceable guy. Because right now, Eddie Jackson and Marcus Williams are playing worse than serviceable guys. They're quite literally the two worst performing safeties in football right now. There was no logical reason to keep Eddie Jackson out there. They letting Jameis Winston cook. This is crazy. He had at least 2 opportunities to get interceptions. He can't hold on to the ball to save his life. He can't make a play on the ball. They got Jameis Winston looking like he's an all-pro. As far as Zach Orr, see, I wanted to not critique Zach Orr for as long as I could have, because he's a rookie DC, and I said I think it's unfair to just jump the gun to just start saying some of these things. But now we're 8 games in, and there's a lot at stake because we are in a Super Bowl window. Not only are we in a Super Bowl window, we've been in a Super Bowl window. And we don't know how much longer this window will last. And Zach Orr is simply not getting it done. Like nothing makes sense. Nothing makes sense when you watch this defense get on the field. I mean, did y'all see, like, halfway through the game, there was a moment where you're seeing Owe and Brent Urban or whoever, they're like scrambling around the defensive line, trying to figure out where they're even supposed to go. And like we just look discombobulated. Like we're giving up big plays. And this is why I said, even though it says we technically have the best run defense, I said you got to take that with a grain of salt, because of the fact that teams know that they could throw it on us with no problem. And then I can't even give all the blame to Zach Orr, because there were moments that our defense could have made a stop and put the game away. They just couldn't do it. They simply couldn't do it. We created no pressure. Like I really like Matabike. Matabike is my guy, but We're 8 games into the season now, and right now, 8 games into his contract, into his new contract, it's looking like he's robbing us. That's all it looks like. It looks like he stole money. Like, we've gotten 2 sacks out of this man in 8 games. Again, and mind you, this is us playing a bad O-line. A bad O-line that is injury riddled. And we can't create any pressure. They started a left tackle today who never played left tackle before. And we still couldn't get pressure. And this is the frustrating part, because many people have been saying, hey, we need an edge rusher. My main point has been, hey, who can we realistically get at this point of the season who's going to really make a difference? People are saying, hey, we need to bring back Jadeveon Clowney. I don't think Jadeveon Clowney is going to make a difference on this team. I don't think Jadeveon Clowney is going to make a difference. If you really want a difference maker, we would need a guy like Max Crosby. But we're not going to get Max Crosby. We're not going to get Micah Parsons. Well, Micah Parsons hurt, but we're not going to get, people like Myles Garrett or whoever, like those upper echelon dudes who actually can create pressure by themselves consistently. It's just unrealistic. Now, maybe there's a name out there that I'm not thinking of that the Ravens will scoop up, but it's looking unlikely right now. What's most likely going to happen is they're just going to go bring in another cheap veteran or overpay for another underwhelming veteran. And we're not going to get anything valuable back in exchange. And the same thing applies to safety. I know a lot of people also want us to get a safety. What moves can we realistically make at safety? Y'all think we getting Budda Baker? We not getting Budda Baker. The Cardinals are 4-4 right now. They're at the top of their division. They actually have a chance to make the playoffs. You think they're about to hand over their best player on defense? That's unlikely. Who else is really available at safety? I don't know. Maybe they try to make a move for Jesse Bates, but that's unlikely. The Falcons are winning right now. I really don't know who would you really have a shot at. Who would you really have a shot at that would make a difference? I don't want to see them just go get another Eddie Jackson who used to be good, when Lamar was like a rookie. And we somehow think that we're going to squeeze a couple of... and this is the problem. This is the problem going back to EDC and this front office, where they have gotten Ravens fans so accustomed to them bringing in older, over-the-hill players and convincing them that, hey, we could squeeze another 2-3 years out of them. And in many cases, it doesn't work. Now, in some cases, it can work, like in Kyle Van Noy's case. He's done more than I thought he was going to do. But in many cases, it's not really going to work. It's just not consistently. You're going to have way more Eddie Jacksons than you are Kyle Van Noy's when it comes to bringing in older, cheap players. So I really don't... what can realistically be done to fix this defense? As far as trades, I don't think there's anything they could really do at this point. And that's why for the past couple weeks I kept saying, hey man, this is pretty much going to be a sink or swim situation. Because not only because it's unlikely that they could go out there and get somebody, but also because they've also drained so much money and draft picks into that side of the ball, and it still hasn't added up to anything. As far as the offense, I don't even know what to say at this point. Lamar, he had an okay day. I don't think he played well enough to win. He did. But just like Jameis Winston threw several picks that should have been dropped. Oh, speaking of drop picks, Eddie Jackson dropped a couple picks. Kyle Hamilton dropped what should have been the game-ending pick. But even on the offensive side of the ball, we had several drop passes. Bateman, who was having a solid season and was coming off of his best game ever, he came through in this game and dropped several key passes, including what could have been a momentum shifting 50-yard pass that literally hit him right in the face. Derrick Henry really couldn't get going in this game, and once we started to fall behind, obviously they couldn't keep him on the field. But like Mark Andrews had an okay day. Isaiah Likely had an okay day. Charlie Kolar did okay, but again, like I like Charlie Kolar, but we are wasting way too many targets on certain players. I'm sorry, man. Like a game like this, I wish Lamar would have been able to zone in on somebody who was really on fire. Now, Zay Flowers did his best. He really did. He did his best. But there's certain moments in this game that reminded me of why I kept saying that I don't think it's realistic to expect Zay to be a true number one. He would be better off as like a number two, like a Devontae Smith kind of guy. Because the main thing I'm thinking about is towards the end of that game. Really the second to last play where we needed that touchdown on 3rd and 10. Lamar scrambling, he resets, he throws a slightly risky pass, but a pass that surprisingly enough was catchable. They couldn't bring it in. He could not bring it in. That contested catch that even though the defender, he tipped it a bit, somebody who's really a number one, you got to bring that catch in, man. We needed that badly. Like being a number one is more than in my opinion, it's more than just, hey, can you put up, decent numbers? Because if you throw a certain amount of passes to most players, they could put up decent numbers. But it's those sort of key moments where I'm like, can we trust Zay to make that catch? Devontae Adams is going to make that catch. I can say that confidently because Devontae Adams has literally had the most red zone TDs in the past 5 years of any receiver. He's going to make that catch. That's why when I made my video a few days ago talking about Devontae Adams, yes, I still believe that even without Devontae, we could still make a run and we could still, we still have a shot at the Super Bowl. But it's games like this where having Devontae would give us more peace of mind because, again, Devontae can make that catch. I'm sorry, we haven't seen Zay make those type of catches at all. Like 90% of the catches we see Zay make are catches that are in his stomach. But I don't want to go too hard on Zay again because Zay did his absolute best in this game. He had like 115 yards, but again, the game just came up short. Justin Tucker is past his prime. I kept trying to tell y'all, like, obviously Justin Tucker is still the greatest of all time, but like I've been saying, he is past his prime. We can't expect him to be that guy that he's been for the first like 15 years of his career, who, when our offense is stagnant and can't do anything, he bails us out with a bunch of long field goals. He's not that guy anymore. He missed again. He's not reliable anymore from there. Like, it's to the point now where he doesn't even look like he has the leg strength anymore. Again, he's getting older now. This is like his 13th or 14th or 15th season. You knew this was going to happen eventually. We need to stop putting him in this situation. We need to execute and actually score. I didn't even mean to go on a rant here. It just feels like I'm all over the place now. But either way, I'm going to just wrap this up here. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. What changes do you think we can make to get back on the right track? And what people do you think we could trade for to get this defense back on track?